So, hi, thank you so much for joining us on the Next Online podcast. We're very excited to have you on as our next guest today. Now, before we kick things off, I want you to introduce yourself to the audience, share a little bit about your journey so far, and what led you into strategy and leadership roles in tech.
Awesome. So happy to be here. I'm Alex Ungureanu. I've been in digital, I think, my entire career. So I started out actually in advertising, was always on the digital side, and then switched over. The digital team kept being bought out by ad agencies, by PR agencies. I then went over and had my own agency for a while, but it's always been sort of executing digital campaigns, whether that was, back in the day, it was like widgets and Facebook pages and Facebook apps. And now it's websites. And yeah, I mean, as you mentioned, I started out and it was more project management. It was sort of that account side. But I found that I was always clients would say, I want this, right? And then we would do it and we were very busy in the doing. And then we'd launch like the Facebook app, and then it'd launch and then we had lots of likes. But I kept kind of going back to like, why are we doing this? Like,
Yeah.
well, what's the goal? Like, yes, client, but how does that sell you the things, And so I think just by asking the questions to like, why are we doing this? I moved more from the how do we get this done to the strategic, let's take a step back and yes, client, but is this the right direction? Like, just because this is what you did last year, did it work? Should we
Yeah.
change anything? So I think it was just more, it wasn't really intentional. Like I never kind of grew up and was like, I want to do this growing up. It was more my career just got guided by the people I met, the jobs I was in, the clients I had. And then I think the questions I asked.
That's very true. I think questions are one of the most underrated pieces of advice that you can give to someone is
Yeah.
always ask the questions. Never try to be like, oh, I
Yes.
know everything. I know what I'm doing. In
Yeah.
fact, that vulnerability could really skyrocket the career.
Nobody knows what they're doing. None of us know what we're doing. We're just figuring it out.
Yeah. So talking about questions, I know that you shared a really interesting example with me when we were chatting and how something as simple as saying last question can unintentionally limit who speaks up. So
Yeah.
what have moments like that taught you about visibility and voice in the workplace?
At first, when I noticed this, because I was in tech, I was very intentionally paying attention to the way that men showed up versus women. I think
Yep.
now it's a lot more different. We talk more about mental health and how we show up and being intentional about making it a safe space for everybody. But back in the day, I noticed when it was like a huge hall and speakers would come and they'd say, okay, last questions, all of the women would kind of go sit down or they'd like hands would go down. The men didn't do that. And even in the way now that we hold meetings, right? Like now everything's online. And so you're expected to, and there's like hundreds of people on the call to like raise your virtual hand and then come on screen and talk. Some
Yeah.
people are uncomfortable talking. Some people want to, not share their screen, or some people are more comfortable asking, or some people might not be comfortable in front of 50 people saying, I disagree, or I have a better idea or different idea, right? I think as workplaces changes, we do need to be intentional and we need to be aware of if you've invited someone to that meeting, are you making it a safe space for them? Have you set it up in the right way to gather all the feedback in all of the ways that people might be comfortable in doing it? Because we all operate differently. And I think as workplaces change, that becomes more apparent.
No, yeah, for sure. I feel like we were talking a lot about this now that I'm remembering in our
Yeah.
conversation, about, like you said, the women tend to really be a little bit more quiet when it comes
Yeah.
to going out there, especially if you're in the tech space. I know that you're surrounded by predominantly males, right? I think we're seeing a little bit better shift now, but more balance, right? But I do think that that has a lot to do with, like you said, being vulnerable in a space, being able to speak up. It's a lot different to be put in that
Yeah.
situation.
And also, like, I find as I get more in the leadership role, it's interesting because I have to be aware to not give my opinions first, right?
Yeah.
If I brought people in the room, I want their feedback. And so I often have to make sure that we've gone around the table and heard everyone out before I give my take. Because
Yeah.
if I'm the first one there, it's super hard for someone who's maybe more junior to go, well, Alex, I actually disagree, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Or we have a global company. It's different nationalities, different cultures, right? That seniority, like for me, a role is a role and a human is a human, but that's not it everywhere, right? So you've got to allow for that space, not just about like speaking louder, right? Like it's about like designing environments where more voices can show up because that's what you want, right? Like you have them there so they can speak.
Absolutely. And I feel like that also has a lot to do with how people speak up. It's like the
Yeah.
cultural nuances, especially in a
Right.
global workplace setting.
Yeah.
I know it firsthand. Half my team, they're international. So,
Yeah.
I am of Hispanic. I'm Hispanic, I'm Latina, and they are
You got
too.
opinions.
We all have
Yeah.
opinions, right? And
Yeah.
but everyone kind of understands each other in that way because we've learned as a
Yes.
team time. Like you end up learning the cultural nuances, the way people are going to speak up or like they want to, they want to. So you kind of have to, as a leader, pull it out of them a little bit, right?
Right. Yeah.
Which is always something that I tend to do as well now that I have a little team.
Yeah. No, but it's great. And also you've taken the time to learn the
Yeah.
different ways that people need to show up, right? So some people might need the time to also think about things, right? Like I respond very quickly and I kind of have ideas very fast.
Yeah.
Some people need the time to mull things over, to get
Ex-
all of the information, to think about all of the angles and then decide. It's okay to also go, hey, if you have any other ideas, get back to me this week.
mhm.
Can we get back to, right? And so to leave that space for others that need more time to think or, think in a different way.
No, exactly. I couldn't agree more because I feel like also kind of shifting into our next question here, it's like early in the career, there's always like this pressure. We talked about it on trying to figure it all out, right?
Right.
But most people, they're still exploring in the ways they even communicate, exploring the different career paths, whatever that might be. And how do you think people should really approach career decisions when they don't have like that clear path yet, or they're even trying to figure themselves out?
Yeah, I think there's so much pressure. And I see it more as like kids are growing up and you're like high school, you're choosing a college or,
Yeah.
you know, like what do you want to be when you grow up? Like nobody knows what they want to be. I'm grown up. I still don't know what I want to be. Like that's not a thing, right?
Yeah.
I think this expectation that we have to have it all figured out is unrealistic and it's not helpful,
No.
right? I think in my career, and I would say more so in early career, it should just be about exploration,
Yep.
right? Because trying different roles and being in different places and doing different things teaches you not only about it, and it's less about the industry or the career. It's more about the type of environment that you want where you work. So do you want to work with people? Or do you want to work alone?
Yeah.
Do teams invigorate you and that instant feedback, or do they scare the hell out of you? Right?
Yeah.
Do you want the feedback? Do you want to get pushed? Do you want a lot of change? Or do you want, is that scary and you just want comfort in doing the same thing and knowing your schedule and knowing your patterns and knowing, right? Like understanding those things. Where do you thrive? What do you need to succeed? What kind of environment do you need from your boss or your work? Some people, remote is terrible for them.
Yeah.
They get invigorated from being in the office and meeting the people and asking the questions. Exploring all of those different environments and kind of figuring out what helps you do the thing. I think the rest of it doesn't really matter, right? You can kind of plan all you want.
It's
I
true.
didn't know what digital was in university. Like AI, what? Like that wasn't a thing, So but I know that change excites me. I know that I want new things and different things. I know that I want to have opinions and teams to bounce them off of. I have some friends that look at me and go, what agency? Like, are you crazy? Like, what? Like, it's madness. So I think it's more about that. I think it's sort of taking the pressure off to have it figured out, to know the things. Even like I've made this decision and now I have to stick with it. You don't have to stick with anything. Like we've all changed our roles a million times.
Yeah.
And just being open to the things that happen, being open to conversations, being open to meeting people, to exploring, I think if we just treat things as this is an experiment, let me try it out versus this is a permanent choice that I'm now stuck with.
Mhm.
I think that just kind of lets the pressure go a little bit.
Absolutely. I think that having that mindset of like not so much pressure on yourself as an individual to have it all figured out
Yeah.
because I think also another thing too is why people end up putting that pressure, right? It's because
Mhm.
they're like, okay, I know my path has to be X, Y, Z. And like, that's just like not the reality. Like, it's never a linear path, right? You're
Yeah.
going to take pivots. It's going to be uncomfortable. But I feel like that's where you grow the most in your
Yeah.
career, as an individual,
Yeah.
even. People just have to, I feel like, really embrace the
Yeah.
mindset pivoting and being okay with change. Even if
Yeah.
you're still at the comfort level, you could still change at the comfort level in
And
your career.
you could change within the company, right? You could
Yeah,
try and hey, I'd like to give this a try. And it might just be a project for a short term. Like
yeah,
none of it has to be life defining and changing, right? Like we
exactly.
could just take little goals, little things, or we could go, hey, you know what? I've done this for a long time. I'm just ready for something else
Yeah,
and be curious about what else is out there.
exactly. I feel like when you're able to just have that curiosity and really embrace it, you're not putting any limitations on yourself. So you're able to move forward and experience the things that you do so that you
Yeah.
continue learning to better
Yeah.
yourself as a professional. Like,
Because there's no end, right? Like there's no right and wrong and there's no end. It's
yeah,
just momentum. Like it's just progress. Did you learn something new? Did you push yourself in a way? Are you better today than you were yesterday? Does this
exactly.
make you happy? Right? Like there's so many people that are stuck in these roles that feel like they need to stay there because they've invested so much. Like there's no point in spending your life being unhappy. If this role doesn't do it for you, or if this company isn't right, try something else.
That's actually very true. And I think that another thing you mentioned was, let's say you're trying something out, you're unhappy, but you're just busy doing your day to day, right? And you're not as intentional with what you want to do. And I think that's, you've emphasized the importance of being intentional in your career. So,
Yeah.
what does working with strategy and intention actually look like in day to day leadership from your perspective?
We're all really good at being busy, right? And it's like a badge of honor. Oh
Yeah.
my God, I'm so busy. I'm
Oh,
so
we have
busy.
to have so many meetings.
Right? I'm so popular. So good. Um, but what have you achieved? Right? Like
Yeah.
what what did you move forward? What did you do? So I think we need to own what we're doing. We need to own our careers. We need to own our progress, right? And so I think being intentional means just pausing and defining what matters, right? Like what impact do I need to make in my job? Why
Yep.
am I here? What builds success for the company or what am I moving forward, right? And so having that clear understanding, number one. And then number two, it's like, okay, how do I plan to get there? Right? Are the things that I'm doing every day, because I'm very busy, are those things moving towards me succeeding in this role, towards selling more things or getting new clients or whatever that is, right? Because otherwise, like our day is like sending emails, providing status updates. If I see one more status update, right? Like, okay, like, and then setting like regular, once a month, taking a pause and going, okay, what did I achieve this month? What
Yeah.
measurable things did I move forward? And as you are junior, making that clear to your boss.
Hmm.
As you are senior, making that clear to your team, having that clear guideline as to this is where we're going, right? Even that makes it easier for your team to kind of go, well, why am I spending all this time here? I'm
Yeah.
updating spreadsheet for X number of hours. Nobody reads it and it doesn't actually move anything forward. Why are we doing this? Just because we've always done it?
Hmm.
Or why are we doing it in this way? I think it gives you the freedom and the direction to go, am I doing the things that matter? Right? Empowering people to say no,
Yeah.
right? Hey, can we have this meeting? Well, for what? How is this going to move anything forward? It's easier to go, hey, I have to get this done because it achieves this. So
Hmm.
my focus has to be here. That's much easier than be like, I've spent my entire day in meetings. I got nothing achieved. Right.
Yeah, it's true.
I think it's really easy to be busy. I think being intentional is hard.
It is. And I feel like a lot of people kind of, at least a lot of the teams I worked with too, and even before I started my own agency, there was one scenario where it's like there was just meetings all day, every day. And we
Yeah.
ended up meeting as a team being like, okay, what are we actually achieving in the calls? Because like
Right.
there's a lot of talking, but not a lot of action. And I feel
Yeah.
like intentionality, you have to
Yes.
have an action plan. There's
Yes.
goals, metrics, of course, in business. So same
Right.
thing with your tasks for the day or even like what you're supposed to be doing in your role on the day to day. So it's like recognizing that and being like, okay, no more meetings. It's like put a limitation on that and you're going to have an
Or have
action.
a meeting with a clear goal. We need to agree on this. We
Yes.
need to action on this, right? And then you can have the meeting, but even that helps you focus and go, let's not talk about X, Y, and Z.
Yep.
The purpose of this meeting is to do this. Let's put the right people in the room. Let's give them the info that they need beforehand. But this is the outcome, right? Being clear with that. Then also you feel better about the meeting and you're not like, oh my goodness, like I've no more energy. I'm all drained and I didn't do anything, you know?
No, it's true. Or like even if like you're having a meeting to discuss, oh, we need to do this in place. All right, let's actually do it on the call together. Let's all have a
Right.
working session to have the plan done. And then that way you can continue when you're off the call and you're not so
You've created clarity, you whatever it is.
you're
Correct.
not
Right.
as like drained anymore. And I feel like that's also being very intentional with time,
There's that word again.
the time, the work
Yeah.
that you're putting in, the things that you're doing on the day to day. And I think
Who
that's,
attends that meeting? How many meetings
yeah,
are with everybody and their dogs and their cats? And for
yep,
no reason, right? Like, if this is what we're deciding or this is what we need, let's just put the people in the room that need to be there.
exactly.
Everyone else can go on with their day.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. And I
Yeah.
feel another thing that you challenged, kind of like on the topic of this, that there's an idea that everyone else knows exactly what they're doing, and you challenge that. So
Yeah.
people reframe that mindset, especially early on in their careers. Coming in fresh, coming in new, they don't know.
Yeah. I remember when I was like, when I first started working, I had like co-op roles and I came in and I thought everyone was an expert on all the things, right?
Yeah,
Because like, you're like, oh my God, these people have been doing this for so long and I know nothing.
yeah,
Now I look back at it and I go, "Oh my God, I've been here for so long." And like, do I know the things? Like, I don't know the things. I'm making it up. I'm getting creative. I'm trying things every single day. Right. And so I think having that, and everyone talks about the imposter syndrome and all of that. That's just the thing. You've got to get comfortable with not knowing everything,
mm,
right? Got to get comfortable putting your hand up, going, you know what? I'm not sure.
yeah,
Let's find out. Or I think like this might be the best approach. Let's try it and then see what happens,
yeah,
right? I think the difference between leaders and effective leaders is just that like comfort with not knowing,
hmm,
right? Not needing certainty to decide. It's just
exactly.
being able to go with the flow, make the call, and being comfortable saying, you know what, that didn't work out. Let's try a different way.
Exactly. And I think another thing too is like from a leadership perspective, not knowing something, it's also okay. For example, for me with my team, there's a lot of things that okay, I know my strengths, I know what I'm best at, and I know the things that I know. But let's say I
Right.
hired someone new who maybe they have something that's my weakness. That's
Yeah.
how I typically, structure my team because that's how you want to
Yeah.
hold balance, right? So
Correct.
I'm totally okay being as a leader, like, wow, I really do not know how to do that. Let's do a little
Yeah.
workshop. Teach me
That's
everything
it.
you know. Like
That's
we
it.
all learn
That's
from
it.
each other. So I think like embracing that more, it's actually gonna make I feel people entering the workforce or entering a new role feel a little bit more comfortable if they're in an
Yes.
environment like that.
Well, I think the other thing is that as a leader, that also that transparency and that honesty around I don't know
Yeah.
makes your team get more like look up to you more, right? It actually builds stronger teams. It also allows them to be vulnerable and not pretend when they don't know something. Because if you
Yeah.
go, hey, I want you to run with this, and they're like, yes, because they're scared of going, I have no idea what you mean. I have
Yeah.
no idea how I would do this. And then they waste their time. You'd rather someone go, do what? Like, I don't know how to do that. And then we give them the tools or we help them or we give it to someone else or
Mm.
right? Like, you want to know that. You don't want people pretending. You don't want people in a situation where they feel like they're over their heads. That's not the kind of team you want to build.
Yeah, it's very true. I feel like, I'm also the type of leader in with the team that I have. If you don't know something and then you're like, okay, I don't know something and I don't know it, I'm like, all right, let's learn
Right.
it together. Like,
Let's
let's
learn it together. Let's figure this out.
figure it out.
Right.
Let's figure it out. So we all
Let's get the info.
get the tools,
Yeah.
get whatever, watch videos. We'll be in the thick of it together because
Yeah.
I truly believe like that's the best way to really, even like you said, uplift the team to be able to
Yeah.
feel comfortable to be like, hey, I don't know.
I
Like
don't
simple.
know. Now, the one thing I will say to you is I think, and the managers that I've seen, or the leaders that I've seen are comfortable making decisions with the info that they have at their time.
Hmm.
I think people that get paralyzed by not knowing all the things, right? You can't move forward because you're never going to be in a position where you have all the answers.
Yeah.
Right? It moves so quickly, especially in agency, especially in tech, especially with AI. It moves so quickly that you've got to be comfortable making the call with the info that you have and then revising as often as you need until you get to where you want to be, right?
Exactly.
It's not, it's not perfection. It's motion forward.
Hmm. I like that. I really like that. I'm literally writing that down.
Well, you have it on tape. You can go back to it.
No,
But
I'm
it's
like,
like it
why?
goes back to the you don't need to always figure things out, right? Your career, your right? Are you moving forward?
Yeah,
Right?
that's very true. And I feel like you've also talked about, the clarity about clarity is being critical for growth, right? In a
Yeah.
setting of like asking your boss, like, what does success looks like,
Yeah.
setting the boundaries, being honest
Yeah.
with timelines, being okay with saying, hey, I don't know, right? So, why do you think so many people hesitate to have these types of conversations?
It's interesting. And I say this to my team all the time, right? Ask the questions, especially when things are tough. Over communicating is better than no communication.
Yeah.
I think maybe it goes back to, oh my God, if I ask the questions, people will think that I don't know what I'm doing. Or they'll see that I don't know what I'm doing.
Yeah.
And I think that couldn't be further from the truth, right? When we're clear on what is my responsibility, when
Hmm.
is this due? I'm understanding that you're asking me to do this. Is that correct? Is this the outcome we want? Is this our goal? Even in your career, hey boss, like what does success look like in my role?
Yeah.
Right? And sometimes, like, let me flip it. The boss might not be clear either, right? Like, let's be honest, right? We
Right.
all always assume that our bosses know and they're, let's maybe challenge that assumption and go, when I start a new role, I really want to be clear on what your expectations are of me and my role.
Yeah.
And those have to be measurable things, right? They can't be like, I want you to be great I want you to kill it. I don't know what that means. That's not a thing. Right?
That's
I
vague.
want you to get X number, like to grow the business by X. I
Right.
want you to have a retention of our clients of Y. I want our client satisfaction score to be a blah. Like it's got to be things that are measurable. Right. And then so kind of go, okay, for me to succeed in my role this year, what are those things? And then every
True.
single month, kind of check in with your boss when you meet with them and go, here is the things that I've achieved. Here's how we're getting to that goal. Do you agree? Do we need to course correct where we are? Right. I think, when people have their reviews at the end of the year, that should never be a surprise. Right. And sometimes you can be like, well, I was really busy. I did so many things.
Yeah.
Right. Back to the intentionality, right? But that also works for your company, right? That
Yeah.
works it works with the clients. Hey, clients, what does success look like?
Exactly.
Right? What do you need? You've hired us. How does that drive your business? What business metrics are we pushing forward? Right? I've worked with many clients where they've spent millions of dollars for us to do these digital campaigns. And I can't tell you that those campaigns have sold their products. I
Yeah.
can't make that link. That's madness. Right? If I was the CFO, I'd go, I've spent this money to do what?
Exactly. It's almost like you have to be the mini CEO of your own career, right?
You have
Like
to be.
your
Yeah.
own journey, asking
Yeah.
the right questions. Like even if you're asking your boss the right questions in the annual reviews, it's like you said,
Yeah.
everything should catch you by surprise. Both
Right.
parties should really know exactly what they're going in for too.
That's it.
Like a mini startup, right? Because I'm a startup agency.
You are your own brand, right? You are your own advocate. Yeah.
Exactly. You have to really advocate for yourself in that way. And it's okay if you don't also have the confidence, but at least you know exactly what you want, what you're talking about, what you're moving forward, what your goals are, and that's going to speak volumes.
You've got to manage up, right?
Yep.
You've sometimes look, there might be some great managers out there that do this and guide their teams. But I would probably say that that's not the norm. Right. And so if you want to be successful in your role, I would go so far as to say like high performers don't guess expectations. They
Yeah,
define them. You don't
exactly.
have to do it on your own, but you've got to be on the same page as your boss. Right. And you've got to be able to show these were my goals. I achieved them.
Hmm.
I want more, or what's next, right? Because you
Yeah.
can't argue with facts, but you can argue with opinions, right? And so saying, well, I was really busy. I put in 80-hour weeks, but what did you
Like what
achieve?
to achieve. Yeah. There's going to be like
Going back, right?
going,
It all is all interconnected without us even needing for it to be.
no, literally. It's so true though. It's like, what did you
Yeah.
achieve? It's like,
Right.
don't just go around and be like, oh yeah, it's true. I've heard it before. And it's, I think that's where people, they tend to overlook that aspect when it comes to talking to a manager, talking to someone when you're in those positions. As we're kind of heading into the final question here to wrap up the podcast. So what advice would you give to your younger self and to the next generation who's navigating leadership, confidence, and growth today?
Oof, that's a hard one. I think just don't rush. Like, don't rush to define your career, to have the answers. I think just like seek environments where you can learn. Forget about, the titles, forget about the industry, forget about the expectations you've set for yourself. If you're focusing on learning, if you're focused on exploring, if you're focused on meeting different people and setting yourselves up in environments where you're growing.
Yeah,
I think, people often talk about mentors. Mentors can be found everywhere and anywhere. Invest in the relationships because they'll compound over the years. You don't
absolutely.
know, who you'll meet, who you'll stay in touch with. Be very intentional about where you spend your energy.
Mhm.
I think this is maybe that's the big one. I spent a lot of time when I was younger, especially agency. We spent a lot of time working.
Yeah,
Right? And now I look back on it and I go, that was a lot of time at work versus at life,
yeah,
right? I think, yes, you can have goals. I don't think you need to sacrifice your life over your work.
mhm.
I think it's okay to put yourself first and set boundaries.
Yeah, absolutely, and I feel like when you're able to figure that out, especially if you're entering the workforce and you're navigating the first few years, if you can figure that out early on, it'll just be better for the long.
Yeah, figure it out earlier, right? Try, test, get curious, see what works. Figure that out earlier. Yeah.
I think people are also afraid of like, I just have like it all goes back to what we were saying, like staying in that one lane and you have to stay in that
Yeah.
one lane only.
But I
Like,
have this goal, but this is success. And if I deviate from this, it's an epic failure and my
you
life is over. My career is over.
Yeah, yeah. It's like, success can come from anywhere. That's exactly what we're trying to do with even this podcast is for people that don't have access to mentors or someone that they can build a relationship with,
Yeah.
maybe this will give them access to it, right?
Yeah.
Hearing from leaders
Sure.
like yourself, like they could
Yeah.
always reach out. That's why we're always blasting it
Yeah.
on socials and doing this thing because, it's paying it forward to the community at the end of the day.
Yeah.
And, if we can turn someone's gears a little bit and they'd be like, wow, this is what they said. Maybe they might reach out. So you never know.
Love that. Listen, I'm all for it, right? And I think I would actually say if you're young and you have questions, reaching out to people on LinkedIn and going, hey, I'd love to chat with you about your role or how you got into it or whatever. Like, just ask. It never hurts to ask. Someone
Exactly.
could ignore you or say no, but what if they say yes?
Exactly. And no is not even the worst thing ever. It's just like, okay, I'll
No.
talk to someone else.
Okay, I'll talk to someone else. But often I think people are open to that. Like, we're
Yeah.
all busy, yes, but also we've all been there.
Exactly. And I feel like everyone just, they know, so they want to help each other out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So ask the questions,
I
be
love it.
curious. Don't rush, enjoy your life.
I love it. I love it. So, what a perfect way to end the podcast. I
There you
couldn't
go.
thank you enough for being with us today. And yeah, thank you so much.
Thank you for asking me. This was fun.